4, 3, 2, 1. We're live.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. It's Renee.
And Gil from the Rich Relationship Refuge.
Kiss me. Mwah. Today's topic. What is it? We have gotten a lot of questions this week, and we have been going through a whole lot.
We'll tell
Tonight,
y'all about all that
later.
later.
But tonight's topic is how to disagree. Yes, we disagree. Yes, we don't
No,
always
no, no.
agree.
We agree about everything. We don't ever argue. We are never in conflict.
We see
are
eye to eye on
we are like
everything.
right
We're
here.
basically just the same person. And if you believe that, don't get married.
That's a fact.
Because when you get married, you're still two totally different people. And these two people have to become one person. And that takes, and I talked about it last week, it takes an act of God. And so we're going to help you guys. We're going to start off with just saying we've had a very um, hectic week.
That's an understatement, but we'll tell y'all all about that one later.
Yeah, but what I will say is one of the things that this we have learned this week is that two is better than one. And sometimes the reason why things don't get done is because you might be in the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you want it to be done your way and I want it to be done my way, and I'm not willing to surrender or acquiesce or be willing to see it from your perspective,
That's my clashing sign.
yeah, nothing's going to get accomplished. I listened to a great episode this week on Dear Future Wifey, with Don Johnson and his wife, and I could see so many parallels in our relationship. And maybe it's because of our ages, but Gil and I were talking today, and I asked him. I said, if we were a dance, what would we be? Would we be a hustle? Would we be line dancing? Would we be a waltz?
Mhm.
What kind of dance would we be?
And I would say this in preference to that, we can't dance at all.
Yeah, we can't dance. We are the rhythmless nation. If you guys saw
You
our
know how you
video,
sit dance, I can do that. Like, boy, I can do that with no problem. But when you stand up,
see,
but I do know I love watching dancing shows. I love
he
watching all that
does.
stuff. Just anybody who is artistic in their expression, that is great. And I said, I think we would be and I may be saying this wrong. So if you're watching this, don't beat me up too bad.
Just
And
tell us,
my close
educate us.
a good friend of mine, him and his wife do this. Marcus and Zion, they actually do stepping, and they call it Chicago stepping. And I won't say Chicago. Well, he's from Cincinnati, so I'll give him his respect and say Cincinnati stepping.
Yeah.
And I said the reason why I said that is because it's structured and it's organized when you watch it, but it's also free flowing and impromptu also. But you still follow a pattern, you still follow a routine, but you also have a lot of expression in that. And so if you have been watching us for any amount of time or listening to us for any amount of time, who do you guys think is expression and who do you guys think is structure?
Me. I will be the expression person. I bring the fire and the spice.
Right. And so I'm the one that brings the structure. And that's something that in the beginning of our relationship, it used to be,
yeah,
it used to cause conflict. But we have learned over the years that if you embrace those things in each other, it can be a very harmonious dance.
Right.
Because you're going to be utilizing the strengths of your partner, and your weaknesses are going to be minimized because you are acquiescing, to the other person's strength. So if you do that, you're going to find that a lot of things that you thought were conflict or you thought were a problem or you thought were issues may not be as bad as you think they are, but you have to do something that we talked about last week, which is compromising in the relationship. So the more you compromise, and you'll find that things become a lot more harmonious in that relationship or that dance.
Yeah. And so the reason why I mentioned the Dear Wifey podcast was because when I was listening to them and she was talking about they're both alphas, which I don't really
Type A personality.
Type A personalities. And Gil and I are not. And I realized that it's really not about your personality, it's really about your temperament. Gil and I both have the same temperament. We're both pretty much like, I don't like drama. I don't like chaos. I don't like things being all over the place. I like, calm. And Gil's the same way. And so I was asking him, I said, why do you think we work so well together? Why do you think we get so much done? And Gil was like, because we don't like scream or holler and yell at each other. We talk about it. We share what's going on inside of us. And one of the things I can say, I'm so proud of my husband and I commend him for, because like for me, moving parts don't bother me. I could juggle five things, prioritizing one at a time. Whereas Gil is more one thing, but he's thinking about 20 things. And me, I'm doing multiple things, only thinking about one of them at a time. And so when you let the other person be who they are, you actually kind of get to leverage the other person's benefit. And so one of the main things that we will talk about tonight about that's really important in dealing with disagreements is number one, before we tell you all the things that it's important for you to do, the most important thing to do is to put Christ in the center of your relationship. Because without Christ in the center of your relationship, a lot of these things that we're going to say you need to do, you're going to be like, I ain't doing that. So, number one is to keep Christ in the center of the forefront of your relationship. What does that mean? That you pray, you read, you listen, you practice, not just going to church, but really being Christ-like. And we'll talk more about that, through our episodes. But it's just important that you realize that being having Christ in the center of your relationship will make it a whole lot easier to do all these other things.
Because in the beginning of your relationship, you are operating basically out of your own instinct and out of your own experiences of what you have done throughout the years of being on this planet, and just from watching other people and from watching other experiences that you may have. So if you think about that, when you take the time to say, you know what, there are things in my life that I really need to focus on and really give my attention to, it's going to make you a lot more graceful when it comes to other people. And so we believe that the person of the God deity that we follow, if they created marriage, which is what we believe, I'm pretty sure he knows how it's supposed to function.
Yeah.
And so we just use the Bible as our guideline for doing this thing called marriage and relationships. Because even though you may be married, or even if you're in a relationship, all the elements and all the essence of those things are still intertwined, and it's never going to change.
No.
Because you get a ring on your finger. You're still going to be practicing those same things. So by keeping Christ and God at the center and at the head of the relationship, you're going to start out on a better footing than you did as you doing it on your own.
Yes. And so the first thing would be to embrace humility.
Wow.
You can't do that without God.
Right.
That is not human nature.
Right.
That is not even natural. And most people don't even think that that should be a part of their relationship recipe. But without embracing humility, you only want what you want. You're not thinking about, well, how is this decision going to affect the other person? Well, we always joke and say, I am now and Gil is later. I want to do everything now. He wants to do things later. But in most cases, 99.9% of the time, when I surrender to his later, I rarely ever regret it. We had an experience this week where he was just like, see, just imagine if we would have moved and did it when you wanted to. Just imagine how hectic this would have both been going on at the same time. And I was like, babe, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness. I don't know if you guys saw the video we made where on 4th of July, our battery died. We went out we were just going to Walmart and went out to the car and the battery was dead. Well, if we were hotheads, that would have set us off, because like I said, we have had very, 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 very busy, hectic week, month. And it's like, I think that we say we love God and we say we believe in God and we say we're like Christ, but the minute something happens, what's inside of you comes out. And so by embracing humility, it really helps you to kind of calm down and not blow off the handle. Because once you say something in the heat of the moment, the scars, the pain, the shame, the rejection you cause in your anger, while you could be forgiven, it just makes it a little bit harder next time for that person to be willing to come to you and be open up to you.
When you think about the humility aspect in your relationship, that's you being allowing each other to be human.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, it's going to give you a chance and it's going to give you some latitude
Yeah.
to give the other person grace, because there are going to be times in the relationship that you are going to be challenged. You're going to
Yes.
be butting heads,
Every day.
especially when big changes are happening. When you
Right.
are going through big changes, whether it's career aspect, whether it's going through health issues, any kind of changes
Right.
that you may have, it's going to pull and it's going to put a
It's
strain
gonna
on the
test.
relationship, and it's going to test
Mm-hmm.
how well you are practicing some of the things we're going to share with you in this episode, but also in the previous episodes that we've already talked about. So when you think about that humility aspect in relationship to what the very first component was, which is having God at the center and at the head of the relationship, it's going to make things gel a whole lot better than you did on your own and without giving the other person grace to do this. And so the third one is actually going where you actually jump in and you seek understanding.
No, you forgot number three.
We actually took notes. We got notes because of the
Yes.
busy week. So
Number three is to communicate with love.
mhm.
You know why that's important?
Why is that important?
Because for me to say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, everyone wants to know your love language and all that and your communication style. It's so important that you understand that you can say something that could be meant well, but if you don't communicate it with love and respect, it can become a very heated situation. You know, just like when Gil said, you know, babe, just imagine if we would have did that, you know, when you wanted to, imagine how that would have been. Versus him saying, you know what, see, I told you I was right. If you would have listened to me, we wouldn't be. You see the difference between all about communication and the way you put it out there is going to be the way it's going to be received. So sometimes the reason why you're having so many problems in your communication and in your disagreements is because you escalate it.
When you don't, but sometimes don't you just want to say I was right?
I
I
said,
mean, even from the human side of things, you
but if
just
you
want,
lead with that, it's
yeah,
going to be an
it's
argument.
going to be conflict. But and the reason why I said that is because that's the human side of life. There are times where you are going to be challenged with your partner, and sometimes you just want to say, yeah, I told you so. But that's not what love and respect and sharing each other and communication,
And
that
that won't go over well.
because then that's going to snowball into other things. Do you want to be right, or do you
Right.
want to get it right?
And what I really started to make this topic, I wanted to make it say how to fight to lose.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that we have learned is that you don't win when you win an argument. You don't win when you get the other person told. You don't win when you give them a piece of your mind. The problem about when you keep giving people a piece of your mind, you're gonna lose some of your mind because you're giving it
Mhm.
away versus understanding that. And one of the things that I put in the book was information that is not requested is not received. If people don't ask you, they don't want to know.
Because they really don't
Yeah,
care.
and it goes back to humility. A person who's humble doesn't have to be right.
Right.
A person that's humble don't have to say, "Well, see, I told you so." If you would have just, that's not humility. And
Right.
so we understand that when that, and even for the other person, you are two different people. So even when you see that, you have a responsibility to say, "Okay, let me back up some because right now this person is not in a good space, and so whatever I say is going. I'm gonna. You can bring gasoline to the fire, or you can bring water and baking soda. It's up to you. If you bring gasoline to the fire, it's going to escalate and it's going to get worse."
Mhm. So when you think about all those things that as they tie together, the overall goal is for you to have understanding with each other.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in to seek understanding in your communication process.
Right.
So when you are communicating, whether it's good or bad, and sometimes even when it's ugly in the conversation, you have to take those steps back and say, you know what? what is my overall goal? What is my overall objective? Your
When you
overall
say
goal.
ugly, you mean when you want to communicate something that's negative.
Right. Well, when you say something, sometimes if you communicate with some of your nonverbals, when I'm saying, when you say communicate, when I say communicate ugly, it's like you say something while it may be right, but you say it with a bad expression or ugly overtone or a mannerism that is not flattering to you or your partner, or even what the conversation is trying to get across. The overall goal has to be for you to get understanding.
Right.
If you don't seek that in the relationship, if you want to be understood, you have to communicate in a way that your message is going to be received.
And I think that sometimes as women, we have to be really, 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 really careful and mindful of the fact that the Bible says that you'll want to be head over him, but instead he'll be head over you. That's a curse. That was the curse from the garden. So it's natural for us to want to have the upper hand, and because we can use more words than men, and so while we may be able to use more words, are they going to build or tear down?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, to me, I can say as a woman, I have to be very careful about what I say, how I say it, my body language, my because sometimes I can have a whole conversation without ever opening my mouth. My eyes, I can say a whole lot. We have this little thing we laugh at lyric where she does this.
Our niece, yeah. So when somebody says something you don't like and you give them that long stare or that long blink,
Like,
you can interpret that a whole lot of different ways, and none of them are usually going to be good.
positive, right? So we have to just make sure that we're, communicating in a way with love and understanding, and that we're using active listening.
Yes. Do you know what active listening is? Well, we're going to share it with you, just in case if you don't. Active listening is where it goes in hand with what we just talked about the understanding. When you are in a conflict, we'll give you a prime example. If you're in a conflict or you're in a conversation with your partner and your wife, your significant
Let's
other.
use one that we had this week.
Well, go ahead.
Well, no,
I was just gonna give an example,
oh, okay, go ahead.
but if you're actually talking about whatever the topic may be, you should be able to repeat back to that person what they said as you heard it, and then ask them at the end of that, is that right? And if they say no, that means you missed something, or that means that they didn't communicate the essence of what they were trying to get across to you. That's an exchange of going back and forth. So the active listening part is, if you're listening to understand what they're saying,
To understand.
put yourself in their position. Try to see where they're coming from. Not that you agree with it,
Right.
not that you are in acceptance of what they're saying, but you understand what they're saying. And when you go to that level and say, okay, is that right? Then they'll tell you yes or no. And if they do, then that means you were active listening. That means you were listening to understand their perspective.
Yeah. One of the things that I think sometimes we don't realize, when we're sitting, when it's the two of us, when we're together, there's really five of us. Because then there's the little girl, Renee, there's the little boy, Gil, and then there's God. And God loves all four of us.
That's
No, no.
little boy, little girl.
Four.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
you mean the present us?
Yeah, the
The little
present us,
girl, little boy, and God.
present,
Okay.
and God. So that's
Okay.
five.
But believe it or not, we do not talk about this before we go. That's why we're doing this, because I'm like, okay, let me make sure that was a prime example. Make sure I'm understanding.
4. There's two of me and two of you.
Right.
And God. So 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5.
Got it.
Got
Okay.
And so when you take that into consideration, when you hear your husband or you hear your wife say something, who is talking? Because I think that when you take into consideration that there's more to this person than just what you see, sometimes what you're hearing is maybe pain from the past.
Mm.
Sometimes maybe it's inhibitions, maybe it's insecurities. And we have a responsibility to be able to speak to that and to encourage them and to build them up. And so every time there's a conflict, every time there's a big shift, every time there's a big change, it's an opportunity for you to get to know each other on a different, deeper level versus it tearing you apart.
Because when we think about our relationship and looking back on it, there are times, even to this day, even after all the years that we've been together, that sometimes previous experiences and previous things that have happened in our own personal life, they will resurface to
They
our
manifest.
present right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not consciously aware of those things that can impact your relationship, it can do some damage to your relationship because you're going to attach that bad experience to the person that you're presently with.
Right.
And they had nothing to do with it, possibly. Most more than likely, they didn't have anything to do with a past experience. Hopefully, I mean, that's something that's in your present that is a negative connotation that is being um, surfaced in your present relationship. So if you take the time to say, okay, where is this coming from?
Right.
Or where did it come from? Or is it something that is impacting my today? Then that person can therefore be there to help you and not necessarily give you the answer, but they can be there to help you and guide you and you partnering in with them to say, let's work through this. Let's get through this because it is still coming up and impacting us in our today.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I can say that I think has helped us is looking for what you have in common.
And that's a common ground.
How do we both are in this together. We both have a goal. How is this disagreement? How is this conflict helping us to get closer to our goal? We're in this together. I'm on your team, you're on my team. It's a whole lot going on, but we are not, the fight is not with us. The battle is the Lord's. A lot of times the things that are going on, really there's an attack on your relationship. There's an attack on the image of your relationship. And so you have to always be mindful of that, because what you see going on may not be everything that's going on. And so you have to think about, what are we trying to accomplish? We're working together. Okay, so I didn't see it that way. Okay, well, I can see how you can see it that way. Okay, I understand. And even if you don't agree, you still have to respect and value what the other person says and how they feel, because it's two people in a relationship. It's not just one person.
Because when we say the common ground, look for common ground in the relationship, because this is something that happened during this weekend. It was a little bit of tension between us throughout this whole week just because of things that are going on that we'll share with you guys later. But there are some things that have happened that you will acquiesce and give in to things. And for me, peace is more important than winning a conversation or a disagreement or anything like that. But I also have to be honest and say, just because you have peace don't necessarily mean you have peace.
Right.
You can say peace in as far as to be over with the conversation or be over with the conflict and just to make it pass. But then internally, you're going to be not at rest. You're going to be
Right.
restless. And that means you either just didn't want to deal with it at the present time. I'm a processor. I have to think about things and I have to really, really dissect it sometimes to the point that I know what's really going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can communicate that to Renee. And if I don't do that, you're going to, or I may say something that has either nothing to do with the present circumstance or something that is just out of my fleshly emotions at the present moment that is not going to be beneficial to us as a couple. And sometimes you can do damage to each other
Mm-hmm.
by a flippant word or something that has just casually come out of your mouth that you really didn't mean.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you didn't mean, but it just came out because you were in defense mode. You weren't on a common ground. You weren't trying to come to a resolution to the thing. You weren't trying to find common ground. You weren't practice active listening that we talked about. You weren't communicating effectively. Mm-hmm. And so when you do those things that are contrary to what's going on, it's going to be a problem that sometimes that's going to cause another problem.
Right.
So now you have multiple things that you have to deal with that is not going to be beneficial to the relationship. So those are some of the things that we're talking about, and how do you deal with conflict?
How to disagree.
How to disagree.
Yeah, and one of the things, we had someone who asked a question, and the question was, what do you do when you're trying to talk to your spouse and they don't let you finish your thought?
Hmm.
And I was like, I mean, they didn't know that this topic was going to be how to disagree. And so when I looked at the comment, I was like, wow, God, when you're going through something, just know you're not the only person going through it. When you're struggling with conflict and disagreement, it's like it's in the air. And so what I would say is, sometimes people don't let you finish your thought because maybe you're saying too many things at one time. I know for me, one of the things that we talk about is one conflict at a time. You cannot unpack four conflicts at a time.
Mhm.
So maybe the reason why they're not letting you finish your thought, because maybe because I know sometimes as women we can get into our emotions and we're like, and you do this, 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 and he's still at one and he's overwhelmed. So I would say that's one thing that you should take into consideration.
And
And
so when you think about that, just as a practical example, it goes back to the very beginning of what we were talking about tonight about active listening. If you're not seeking understanding, if you don't have that understanding, it's going to be multiple things being thrown at you at once because you're not communicating effectively and the person didn't understand. These things that we're sharing are not revolutionary,
no, but
not
these things you
in new
got to really
idea,
practice though.
but that's the whole key.
You got
Most
to do
people
it.
do not have a knowledge problem.
They have
Most
an
people have an
application.
application problem.
Very much so.
So when you apply the things that we're sharing with you, you'll be surprised at how quickly things can be resolved.
Yeah.
We said it before in previous episodes. When you start focusing on symptoms of a conflict, that's when you get multiple this coming at you because you're focusing on the symptom. The whole goal is to get the understanding to say what is really bothering us, what is the
Right.
real conflict between us, because it's with us both.
Right.
So that's what you really have to focus on. It's not just him, it's not just her, it's
Yeah.
us.
And so I think that for that person who asked the question, I try not to say people's name because I want you to feel free to talk. Um, Always, like we said, embrace humility. Put God in the center. Embrace humility. Communicate with love. Try one conflict at a time. And another thing is just it's like, hey, babe, I feel like when I want to talk to you about how I feel like you don't hear me out. Can you please let me have time for you to hear me out before you begin to,
Respond.
because you can't respond. You can't listen to understand if you're responding already. So I hope that that helps. And if that doesn't help, please let us know, because we want to try to not only just talk about the things that, we're trying to make sure that the things we're bringing to you all are things that you need, and plus stuff that we're going through. We're going to share our lives with you guys,
Mhm.
the things we're living through, not just the good things, the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and the lows. We are going to share them with you all. And that's one of the things that we love about this community, because it is a community. We
Mhm.
can help each other. We can be there for one another.
So we have given you some of the things that we talked about, but we also like to give you some call to
Some
action,
new habits.
some new habits and some things that you can actually practice in your relationship that is going to be beneficial. Some of these things that you may be already doing, and if you are doing them, keep it
Great.
up, keep practicing it. You don't have a knowledge problem. You are actually applying the things that you either know that are beneficial to the relationship, and that's going to carry you over into a better standard or a
Yeah.
better area of your relationship.
And what I would say is this week, me and Gil have known each other since we were 14. And I don't care how long you know someone, you're going to still learn things about them that you didn't know.
What did you learn this week?
We'll talk about that next week
Oh.
when we share. It's not bad, babe.
Oh,
It was
okay.
good.
Okay.
It was good. No,
So,
it's not bad.
all
It's
right.
good.
So the
If I
first
say
one,
it, it'll tell.
okay. So
Okay.
we'll share with you next week. The first one that we want to say is just like what we're doing right now. Spend quality time.
With God, yourself, and your spouse. All three every day. Before I do anything, because if I don't, the old Renee comes out and she is not nice. She is not a
Mhm.
nice girl. So I make sure I spend time with God, I spend time with myself, and I spend time with Gil every day.
Because quality time, there's this thing out there that was, I can't, Dr. Chapman, the five love languages.
Mhm.
Everybody may be familiar with it. Most people are. And one of the five love languages is quality time. And most people have this as one of their love languages because it is just really that vitally important to the relationship. Because if you're
Mhm.
not spending quality time, you're going to find that it's going to cause conflict. It's going to cause problems because you're not getting
Yeah.
something that you
Because we
need
realize
in the
we will get
relationship
mad at each other.
and start bickering at
And
each
I'm like,
other
you
and
know
fighting.
what? I miss you.
And when you really take a step back and say, you know what, we really haven't been spending quality time, because you can be with each other 24/7. A lot of
Mhm.
people experience this during the life altering event that we all went through, that we were confined into one space
On
for a long
lockdown.
time of time, that was not quality time. It
No.
could have been quality
That was
time.
called, it was prison on the show.
Depending on how you actually use the time, it could have
Right.
been quality time. But most people found out some real interesting things and facts about their relationship that they have been either neglecting, avoiding, or disregarding. That quality time has to become an essence where you're talking and you're sharing, you're listening, you're communicating, you're understanding, and you're spending time
And
together.
it's something that you choose to do. You're not forced to do. Quality time is something that you make a conscious effort to make it a priority. That's the difference between what happened then and quality time. It's not being forced.
And then the second one is expressing gratitude. We count it an honor and a privilege. I love being married to Renee Beavers.
I love
I
being
love
married to
being married to
Dorothy.
her because I'm grateful. I'm thankful for her because I'm a better man because of her. And when you take a step back, sometimes we take our relationships for granted. We take them to the point to where they become secondary, that we don't even think about or anything like that, that we just take the person for granted. So you have to be grateful for the things. We'll be the first to give God glory and great and attribute and great praise and blessings and all the things that are contributed to him for things that happen to us.
Right. But
Well,
not for
this
the
happened
people.
to us. You
Yeah.
have people in your life that have blessed your life. So expressing gratitude, even if you don't have a spouse yet or don't have one at all, or maybe that's something you're seeking, maybe something you're not seeking. There are people in your life that you should be grateful for that they are in your life. And there's nothing wrong with expressing it to them. So have that position and that attitude of gratitude of saying, I'm thankful for this person that is in my life that is making me better as a person, as an individual.
And the way you can show gratitude with your words. You can show gratitude with something as simple of, I know Gil loves bananas. Gil eats bananas every single day. And if I go to the store, I'm gonna remember to get that brother some bananas, even though somebody may eat them before he gets them. Little things like that says I'm thinking of you.
Because you know what?
I'm grateful for you.
That will give you cool points, relationship cool points. That's what I call it. You get 2 cool points if you bring your significant other something that you know that they like and enjoy spontaneously,
Yeah.
just because you were at the store or
And you're thinking
wherever
about them.
and thinking about them. And that can even be a challenge, y'all.
Yeah.
It don't have to cost a lot of money. It could be
No.
something as simple as a banana. That's about 40 cents.
Yeah.
Something as simple as a banana. But that what that says is, I was thinking about you, and I want to show you that I was thinking about you. Not just tell you, but show you. Give them something. Bring them something that you know that they like, enjoy. It could be something.
I like my back scratched. That's
Yeah,
something I
yeah,
love.
something like that. It could be acts of service. It could be something that they just enjoy.
Yeah.
So
Another new habit is to become a better active listener.
we already shared with you how to do it.
This is so important. It's on here 2 times because one of the things I had someone who watched the video that comment. They said, "Oh, the man of the house don't have nothing to say," and I'm like, well, yes, the man of the house has a lot to say, but I was talking. So therefore, it was for me to talk and for him to listen. And then there's times when he talks and I listen. And so when people, sometimes the things that people say says a lot about their mentality about men and women. God loves us both equally, and we both have something to say and something to share, and both need the opportunity to be actively listened to where we're listening to understand.
Absolutely. So when you are using those skills or that active listening skill, it's going to bring huge dividends to your relationship.
Yeah. It brings a better sense of understanding of what the other person is thinking
Mhm.
and what they're feeling. One of the things that's important to me, because I am extroverted and I'm more of a communicator, I want to always make sure that Gil feels like I'm a safe place where he can come and talk to me about anything and he's going to have my undivided attention and I'm going to try to understand. If I don't understand, one of the things that Gil has really taught me how to do is to keep asking questions. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, what made you say that? Well, what was going on when you thought that? And it's not that I'm questioning him to just interrogate him. I'm questioning because I really want to know. Be inquisitive. The more inquisitive you are, the more you're going to grow, the more you're going to learn. Ask questions.
So I'm gonna share something with my brothers. Ladies, don't listen to this right now. I'm gonna just share it with the brothers. Brothers, if you're listening, 3 words that will help you out, that I guarantee will get you some cool points. Tell me more. I double dog dare you to say that to your girl. Tell me more. If she does that, I guarantee she will tell you. That means you're actively listening. That means you're paying attention. Okay, ladies, you can listen again.
Okay.
Brothers, go ahead and practice it. I'm telling you, it's going to pay huge, huge dividends. Guaranteed.
And so then the other one is daily acts of kindness.
Elaborate on that one.
Something as simple as like one of the things that we do, and if we don't do it, I'm like, hey, what's wrong? Get up in the morning and give each other a kiss,
Mm-hmm.
or bring each other
or
a
whatever.
plate,
Mm-hmm.
or if I see you outside and you're cutting down branches, stop and come and help you.
Sometimes that can be something as simple as a servant.
Yeah.
Us as believers, we are servants. We want to serve other people quickly. We want to serve them multiple times. Well, turn around and turn to the person that is probably sitting next to you, or in the same household as you, and serve them. If you're serving them already, yeah, thumbs up. Cool points.
One of the things that I do, ladies, as an act of kindness to my husband that he likes, is I call him and I breathe on the phone like, I give him sexy phone calls. I don't send pictures. So think about your husband, think about your man, things that he likes, and do that. Something that takes you out of your normal comfort zone. Put on some lingerie, whatever.
That's a whole nother lesson. We'll get to that conversation. And then the last one we're going to give you tonight that we were actually talking about. This is something that we're actually kind of doing right now on Friday nights. We've been doing this this is week 6. I done lost track. 5, 6, I don't know. But we just doing them. Well, this has an opportunity to become a date night.
Yes.
And what we mean by that is you can use this as a date night where you are actually investing in your relationship by doing this, by getting new information, just by talking about it, because you won't take it for granted if someone is talking about the subject. And I guarantee it may be something that you'll meditate on later that either you agree with, disagree with, or that you want to apply. Steal it, make it your own. Mm-hmm. We don't own any of this content that we're talking about. We're just sharing to you the experiences of 35 plus years and 18 plus years of working with couples that we have known for a fact that works in building a healthy relationship. So regardless of the kind of date night that you do, just invest in a date night that works for you.
If you have a small budget, like when the girls were little and we had no money, our date nights were we would get some ice cream and we would sit and watch movies together. And then but one of the things about the rules about date night is you can't talk about your kids. You can't talk about work. You can only talk about each other and talk about things about your relationship. And that's one of the rules for your date night. So we challenge you to start having a date night. If you guys would like for us to do this earlier, please put that in the comments. If you're watching this later and you're like, hey, I would love to meet you guys for date night, but the time is off. Please put that in the comments. Let us know what would be a good date night for you. But even though everybody can watch it later on, but we want to be able to get together where it can be a consistent time where we can commit to us having our hot Friday night date night.
For those who actually leave comments, we appreciate it. We read every single one of them. And sometimes the topics actually come out of those comments. So even if it's something that you would like us to address or talk about or even bring up in this as a dialogue, leave it in the comments. We always love to see where you're coming from. So tell us where you're watching from, where you're listening from. Even if you're on the podcast, we actually listen. We know people are listening to the podcast because we see the growth and we appreciate all of that.
Yeah.
So we enjoy this. We're going to keep doing it until
Jesus comes, or you guys get tired of us.
But we're going to try to make it on a regular, and we've been trying to keep to it and stick to it, and we will,
regardless to what's going on.
Because I'll be honest, y'all, I didn't think we were going to make it tonight. I'm gonna let it out there. It's been crazy, and we got it's good stuff that is happening, but it's
all the
testing.
Good stuff comes with a whole bunch of work.
So we'll fill you guys in on that in the coming weeks, and we'll maybe even give you an update. If we're going to be next week, you'll see. It probably won't be in this environment because we're going to be traveling. So we'll let you know what that's all about.
Yeah.
So we'll see you guys, and unless you got something else,
Do you guys have any questions? Anything you guys?
Anybody that's still on, that's
Anybody
watching,
who has questions they want to ask? If you're not watching live now, when you're watching later on, please put your comments and your questions in the comments, or if you're live in the chat, and if you're on a podcast platform, send us an email at richrelationshipsrefuge@gmail.com. If you notice, we have two different emails.
Yeah.
richrelationshipsrefuge.us@gmail.com or richrelationshiprefuge@gmail.com. Both of those are us.
And shout out to Chilling with Lisa Pooh. We
Hi,
appreciate
Lisa
that.
Pooh.
You're the first one in there that left a comment. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Buy it, build it, and fix it. Ha ha.
Hello,
Thank you. Appreciate
that's
you guys just
Joni.
jumping in
We
there
love you.
saying something. So we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for tonight. And we will definitely see you next Friday.
Yes,
Lord
we
willing.
will. Unless Jesus comes, then none of us will be here. So we love you. We appreciate you. And we're so glad to spend this time with you. So we hope this helps you to learn how to disagree, still with respect and humility and kindness, and still feel seen and heard.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Love you guys.
Night.
Night, night. Bye. Thank you. And thanks to all of our new subscribers.